The Morning Brew podcast with Jaffe and Razor, sponsored by Berkshire Bank Home Lending. Where you borrow matters. An original six matchup, and the Boston Bruins figure out a way to win a game in the last minute instead of giving up the lead as the Boston Bruins win 4-3 in, I almost said overtime. Let's start that again. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And welcome into Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. Post-game edition, doing it on Thursday night after the Boston Bruins beat the Chicago Blackhawks, the original six matchup, as we like to promote on Nesson. A 4-3 win that I guess felt like overtime, but it wasn't. Thankfully, the Bruins, instead of burping up a last-minute game, win one as David Pastrnak scores a goal. We'll talk all about it. Welcome in again, Razor. And by the way, presented by Berkshire Bank. Thank you to the good people there. Razor, that was a... well, at least for me, unexpected way for the game to end. I was assuming that we were going to overtime, given how the I just guessed that 17 or whatever, 30 seconds left, whatever it was. I don't even remember. Right at the end of the game was happening, and I guess I assumed the worst case scenario, so to speak.
I was tossing my water bottle in the trash halfway across the suite. I figured 17 seconds. All right, we're off to overtime, and bingo bango, the Bruins. And this goes to the point of the panic, or there wasn't panic, but the talk of, well, they've given up 3 goals in the last 30 seconds. What does that mean? It all evens out. They might win in the last 30 seconds for the next 4 games, and it'll all kind of even out over an 82 game schedule. Bouncing puck in front of the net. Oh my God. It was a game they should win, and they did it. And we're in the dog days. This is fun. It's exciting for me because we haven't had the dog days for like 3 years, it feels like. Mm-hmm. And this time, 2 years ago, the season got shut down. Last season, 56 games. There was no dog days. It was a mad sprint. So it's like 2019, where you got a long ways to go here. Lots of things can happen, and we're gonna really have that play out here in the next little while. So good to get the win. The crowd was great. Original 6, and the Bruins get back on track.
Yeah, it's funny, or it's odd, because I keep telling myself it's mid-March, so we're almost done. But we're not. We're still have trade deadline. We still go to April 30th instead of April 3rd, April 5th. Yeah. April 8th, I think, is usually the latest that we go. And we usually start playoffs by like the 12th. But we've got a ways to go. Supposedly playoffs will start May 2nd. I believe that's the date that I was told.
They're going to really crank the playoffs out, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, they need to get them done by the end of June. They're not going to go past the end of June.
Yeah, they can't.
Now, the end of June, you're like, whoa, that's so far away. But again, we're in mid-March. So, but we do. We have a ways to go still. I never felt in this game against Chicago that the Bruins were completely invested in it. Is that would you agree or disagree with that statement?
Yeah, they were fine. Yes, they were fine with the outcome either way. It wasn't there. We're not in any do or die situation now. They're literally, it's they're good enough to win. They're good enough to find goals. They're not going to lose. They don't think they're going to lose to the Chicago Blackhawks 2-1 at any point in that game. When it's 2-1, they don't feel like we're going to lose with just one goal. And it feels like they had that mentality all night, where, to your point, they weren't fully invested, but we're going to find a way to win. And I don't mind that mentality, especially if you pull it out at the end in the last 25 seconds.
Well, I guess I'm assuming you don't mind it because you can't burn it. You can't grind it every night,
Yes,
right? That's what you're
that's
getting
right.
at. You just can't.
That's what. Yeah, my get is that they're a good team now, where they're kind of taking Chicago for granted, and I'm
Mhm.
okay. Again, I'm okay with that because there's a long way to go. They're looking, they're not gonna bring that intensity against the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're not gonna bring that intensity against Tampa Bay. I think they've put themselves in the next category where they recognize who they're playing against and what they're playing for.
Yeah. The game got started, not a great start. Forbert had some, I would say, two marginal passes. One awful one that led to an icing. Another
For
one that,
shit.
yeah, in the first shift to put who was his teammate out there? That was it Frederick? I don't even remember. Into a
Yes.
bad spot, and
Frederick. Yeah, no,
and
they started the third line.
yeah, and then they get a penalty. The Bruins end up getting a penalty called against them, and it just wasn't a great start. But after no score for a little while, Charlie Coyle made a nice play in the neutral zone, and it culminates with him actually getting the puck back in the ozone in the left wing face-off circle right around the dot, and is able to snipe it in after a nice pinch from Connor Clifton to keep the play alive. So it's 1-0 Bruins. But a little bit after that, Alex DeBrincat scores about 2 minutes later. So the Coyle goes at 4:12, but then after killing the penalty, and then at 6:41, Alex DeBrincat, who is a really good goal scorer. Holy smokes, is he good? Not big, but he is good. He plays a big game in the sense he's not afraid to be in the middle of the ice. He scores on a nice 2-on-1 from Patrick Kane, who continues to just produce points. That's DeBrincat's 34th goal of the season. So at the end of one, it is 1-1. Second period gets started well for the Chicago Blackhawks as the kid Brendan Hagel comes through, his 19th goal of the season. Holy smokes. I mean, he's later scores his 20th. Who would have ever thought this kid Hagel would be putting up numbers like this? But he ends up putting a goal in on a wraparound as the Bruins get caught, I guess, in between a bit, and Ahcan can't seal the side, neither can Swayman. But then David Pastrnak responds on the power play with a gorgeous shot, his 32nd of the year. So we're tied at 2. I beg your pardon. After Ahcan then scores his power play goal and his first ever
Yeah,
goal.
you just jumped over his
I
first
did.
NHL National Hockey League goal. Hopefully, mom's
You
not
don't want
listening.
to make him feel too good.
I agree. I put him in his place. He's still just a 2-game rookie or 3-game rookie. Put him in his place.
Yeah, sorry, Jack. I'm sorry. At 11:57, Jack Ahcan scores a power play to tie the game at 2. We'll touch on that goal specifically in a moment. Pastrnak then gets his 32nd on that gorgeous one-timer cross ice pass from McAvoy to Pasta. His 32nd makes it 3-2. We enter the third period. Hagel scores again to tie it at 3, about 3.5 minutes into the period on the power play. Swayman can't cover the puck, but then David Pastrnak scores with 18 seconds left to be exact. His 33rd goal of the season on a shot that bounced away. The puck bounced away from Connor Murphy in front of the net, and then the left side, David Pastrnak is able to actually snipe it top shelf past the goaltender Kevin Lankin. And so 4-3 your score. Let's touch on Jack Ahcan. Let's get right to the rookie, the youngster. You said it. I agree. A lot of Torrey Krug visually in him. It's too early to say if he has the overall offensive flair, but I do think he has the confident flair. I do. I think he has that already because that's his mojo forever. For his, I guarantee he was always probably the smallest kid on the ice, Razor, when he was playing.
Absolutely. The if they've made it this far, the smaller statured players, the Brad Marchands, the Torrey Krugs, the now Jack Ahcans, and I don't say it, and he's going to be Torrey Krug, but he's gotten very far in hockey, and he's heard every single year he's played, every single month he's played, that he's too small to go to the next level. He's good now, but we can't play at the next level. And Brad's the same way. That's why these guys play with the chip on the shoulder. And hockey sense wins out with some of these kids at the end of the day. And it seems as though Jack is close to that. And whether he can really make an impact in the NHL is remains to be seen. But the fact is, he's gotten this far. He scored an NHL goal now. No one's ever taken that away from him, and he has that it where he moves his feet, he gets in on the play, he doesn't give a whole lot up at either end of the rink, and he was decisive tonight. I liked his. Bruce Cassidy talked about him being, more involved and making that first pass, and you said it at post game. Bruce knows what an offensive defenseman looks like. That's what he knows more than anything else, and he can help Jack, and he can point him in the right direction. And I thought Jack took the points from what Bruce talked about this afternoon and put them in place tonight. So it was a progression. He's not Torrey Krug yet, but we haven't seen a defenseman on the power play do what Jack did tonight either since Torrey Krug. So that's
right.
That makes a positive.
Just comparing him to the other smaller defensemen on the Bruins, in Matt Grzelcyk, who didn't play out with an illness, I don't know if Grizz makes that play. I'm with you.
I don't think so.
He kind of uses his body to shield the puck coming down the wall, and then he rotates off the right wing wall, out of the corner, comes to the front, gets to the 10-2 to the Mohawk type turn. Puck comes to the middle of the ice and has a real nice wrist snapshot that beats Lankinen up high. It's not a criticism of Matt Grzelcyk. It's more of Matt's going to think pass first. He'll pinch. I mean, Matt's got Grizz has got a fantastic first step, a fantastic stride, power stride. But as Sean, I think taking it from the wall again to the middle is something I feel I'm with you is a little different, and good for him getting that first goal. His line in the game, interesting enough, he was a -2, just under 16 minutes of ice time. You like that?
That's just overlooked that.
Right.
Plus minus doesn't mean anything.
Right.
That's funny. I didn't even recognize it. He was -2.
Yeah. Well, he was on the ice for that the Hagel wraparound.
He was definitely. I remember that. I mean, that was him. I didn't know to recognize the other one.
Yeah. So had a goal. He had a one shot on net. Couple of other attempts. He had a takeaway in the game. But good for him. It'll be interesting to see if Grizz is able to play on Saturday, if Ahcan comes out, or does Mike Riley come out? Does Derek Forbert come out? I think you have a hard time taking Forbert out given the penalty kill aspect of it.
Yeah.
Even though
you can't go small ball. That kind of small ball.
I'm with you now, but now situationally speaking, you're playing Arizona. It doesn't mean that they're not capable of being physical, but they're not a good team. Could you go 3-point guards? I don't know. I don't know, but
could you, or are you just putting in? Are you? Is it a showcase night? Showcase everybody you got with Arizona in the building. Bill Armstrong, former Providence Bruin coach, in the building. Showcase them all.
Good question. It's a good question. Do you do that? Maybe. That's something to keep an eye on for Saturday night's game. So a couple other things from the game. Third line, the 1-2-3 line continues to really play well. Yes, they had the goal, the Charlie Coyle goal. But I thought just overall zone time, I don't have the analytics in front of me right now. So if I'm wrong on this, well, you can tell me I'm wrong, but I know that Coyle had 2 shots. Smith had 2 shots. Frederick had a shot on net. Not many other attempts, it doesn't look like. But I thought they were pretty good. They just do their role. At least from my eyes, they do their role more often than they don't, and it has a regular impact. They've had a regular impact, Razor, on the game lately.
They have, and in a first period of nothing, it was them.
Yeah.
From my point of view, every time they got on the ice, and we talked about it again post game. It's Frederick. Frederick's the difference on that line because we know Craig Smith is the ultimate pro. He's a great NHL hockey player. And I say that in not like he's not going to the he's just a
Right.
great NHL hockey player. He figures it out. He knows what it takes. His feet move. He shoots the puck really well. He's strong. He's just like him and Charlie Coyle are great NHL hockey players.
Razor, you know what? Charlie or Craig Smith, I think he could be the type of player at 38 years old still has a job somewhere. And you're like, how the hell? And then
Yep.
you're like, well, but he's playing third line, 14, mentoring some others, and he's still finding a way to pick up 14 goals in the season.
Yep.
Somehow, some way.
He's Mike Knuble to me. For any of the Bruins,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
Mike Knuble. That's who he is for me. He's a great NHL player. He's going to make 25 sheets in the NHL. Like he's set, and he's just that guy. And to have him on the third line with Charlie Coyle, who's very similar to being that guy, wants to be that guy, and then Trent Frederick for me is the step up. And you said it. We didn't talk a lot about Trent Frederick in the first up until 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, and he's added a step. He's getting to his spots, and that's what we wanted from him. We wanted to see him take that jump, and I feel like he has with these two guys, and they're a legit line. They are a legit line to me. You can roll them over in any situation, and it doesn't feel like they're in trouble, or it doesn't feel like they're going to be a problem for the Bruins, and that's huge for this group because they haven't played the top teams in the Eastern Conference with this line, and I'm really interested to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I am too. I am very much interested to see. Also, from the stat line for the 1-2-3 line, they had 6 hits combined, and you know what? The fourth line, the Nosek, Foligno, Lazar line was credited with 6 hits as well, 4 by Foligno, 2 by Lazar. And while again, I rarely look at the hit numbers. The point is, you got 12 of what was 26 hits that was credited to your team in the game from your third and fourth line. Those are the numbers you want from those lines. That you
we're
want
screaming
to
from the
yes.
tower that Brad Marchand had 9 hits out of the 18 hits
Right.
5 months ago from this
Right.
team, and we don't see that anymore, and that's a real thing.
And yes, and so now you've got visually a very appealing bottom 6. I've liked Nick Foligno in that left wing fourth line role much better. I think everybody would agree. Nosek, even if he doesn't score, even though you want him to once in a while, even if he doesn't score, you feel like you know what you're going to get. And then Curtis Lazar, maybe the guy that just probably doesn't get talked about, probably the least of any Boston Bruin. I think Forbert gets talked about more. Cliffy probably gets talked about a little more, just because Cliffy can be, that riverboat gambler, some really amazing stuff and some whoa stuff, But Lazar doesn't get talked about a lot, but he does his job. He really does, and he does it with some pretty good speed and some good determination. So I like what I'm getting
Curtis
as I
Lazar is
like.
scoring Curtis Lazar is going to score a huge goal in the second game of the playoffs,
Right,
right?
right.
We're like, wow.
Exactly, and that's where we'll talk about him.
Yeah.
So those guys with some good stuff. A few other numbers that jump out. Pastrnak, obviously, with 2 goals and an assist. He had 8 total attempts, 3 of them which hit the net. Patrice Bergeron gets back into the win column again in the faceoff circle. I mean, he had done it. He didn't do it against LA, but here he was 17 wins, 11 losses for 61%. And, another game where Marchand has an assist. Hall has an assist. McAvoy has an assist. But while I say you didn't rely on them per se, yeah, you get the power play going. But it wasn't just one of them that had to do it. They kind of all divvied it up, so to speak. And the Bruins come through with a nice team victory when it's all said and done. And a victory that keeps them on pace with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And how much do we concern ourselves with trying to catch the Leafs? They're 4 points back as we sit and record this morning, Bru. And, are they better off staying in the wild card and facing potentially Carolina or or Tampa? Or do we try, and elevate? I guess if you elevate even to the third spot, in theory, if you take over Toronto, you're still going to face either Florida or Tampa. That's what you're going to end up getting.
Yeah, they're getting one of those three teams. There's
Mhm.
no way around it at this point. There really isn't. There's no way around of getting Carolina, Tampa, or Toronto, or sorry, Carolina,
Yeah.
Florida, or Tampa. And I don't think you worry about it now. You just don't. Uh, it, you I think they would like to happily see themselves in the third or fourth spot. You look at the Rangers; they're going to fall off a little bit. Shesterkin can't keep up this pace. I
Mhm.
love him; he's awesome, but it's really hard to keep up the pace. You look at Pittsburgh; so I think they would like to end up being third or fourth or fifth in this in points, just to say that they are. But no, the reality is they're going to play a good team in the first round of the playoffs. They think they're equipped to beat one of those good teams, and let's have at it.
Yeah. Uh, Speaking of having at it, let's quickly touch on our great friends over at Fazenda. If you want to have at a good cup of coffee, actually better than a good cup of coffee, you want a great cup of coffee, go to fazendacoffee.com and check out all the different roasts that they have. Whole bean, already ground. Um, I brought my backpack briefcase slash it's a backpack in and like my office just smells like this wonderful cafe. My backpack did too because I brought Razor in some coffee that mostly his wife Erin will get to enjoy, as we all know that Razor is the cold brew guy. He's
Aaron,
the
Aaron's still up.
yep.
Erin's still awake. She's already got the coffee in the coffee. The timer's set. She's taken on Fazenda. She's very excited to have the Fazenda in the morning. So our house
Oh,
will smell like Fazenda.
beautiful. I've got right here, if you're watching us on the YouTube, here's the Fazenda. This is one of my favorites, the Guatemala chocolate caramel and rum. It's a medium dark roast. I love it. Uh, just it's smooth, a little sweet, but smooth, outstanding stuff. Let's tell you another place that carries Fazenda in the area. Neshoba Brook Bakery in Concord, Razor, has Fazenda coffee. So go check out the Neshoba Brook Bakery in Concord. Go have a cup of coffee and what other goodies they have there. Go to fazendacoffee.com, put in the code Morning Brew, get yourself 15% off on your order. And seriously, I've got six. I got like 9 bags of this stuff. I don't know what it is. I could smell it all day. I love it. I love drinking coffee, but I also love smelling it. fazendacoffee.com and tell them the guys from Morning Brew sent you. Go check that out. I don't want to play a game, so to speak, but we're at that time. There's been a couple of rumblings out there of a few players. I'll get our take quickly on if we think that these players are legit. Like, is it a hot cup? Is it a cold cup? Cold brew, so to speak. If the Bruins are in on them, we'll start with Jacob Chychrun, who we'll see on Saturday night, along with some other guys like a Phil Kessel. He could be on the go. By the way, let's touch on that. Phil Kessel, in Detroit, right? It's in Detroit. And
Yep.
what night of the week was it? Holy smokes. Tuesday night, right? Yeah, it was
Thursday
Tuesday.
or no, Tuesday.
It was
It's Thursday
Tuesday.
now.
Right. And the Coyotes are in town, and Phil Kessel is going to play a game to keep his Ironman streak alive. But instead of playing the entire game, he plays a 30-second shift. Actually has a shot on goal, considered a scoring chance, and then goes off the ice. And I assume takes a shower. Maybe Phil didn't, for all we know, and goes to a private plane to take him back home for the birth of his first child. It ended up being a daughter. Are you okay with it? I am. And
You
I'll say
go
that I
why?
am.
No, tell you have to say why
Okay,
because
this is why I'm okay with it. I believe that Phil Kessel wanted to play, genuinely wanted to play the game. And because Phil's a hockey player, when it's all said and done, Phil gets made fun of an awful lot, right? For how Phil is. But you know what? He's a hell of a hockey player. He might be soft. When I mean soft, I don't mean I mean, chubby or whatever you want to call it. Doesn't look like a pro hockey player, but he can shoot. He may be a better passer than he is a shooter. He has played some really good games in the playoffs when he was with the Pittsburgh Penguins, where the play is heavy duty and he doesn't seem to get to him. And he might not have the most scintillating personality in the world, but you know what? He loves to play hockey. Maybe so much that he would have, if according to reports, he would have just stayed and then flown home a couple of hours later. And you know what? Arizona's not good. Get your ass out of there. Go home and make sure you're there for the birth of your first child. That's what I say. So I say it's okay because he hasn't done this much before. I don't think he's ever done anything like this before. He gets a one-time pass for the birth of your first child. That's my reason why.
Yeah. So I'm with you with all of it. Phil is a great NHL hockey player. Just like I just talked about Craig. He's got 2 Stanley Cup rings. He's had 2 Stanley Cup parties at his house. He's a top 3 draft pick. He scores goals. He's hard to play against. I played against him. He can shoot the puck like any. He's an NHL hockey player. He's got everything.
Mm-hmm.
The streak makes, if he ends up being the all-time, I feel like the two of them, him and Yandel this year, have kind of changed the way we've thought of this streak a little bit. In how much they play. Doug Jarvis now feels solidified in what he did because of the way when he played. He probably missed like 3 kids' births. He probably missed all of them, and we didn't hear about it. There were no private jets flying back. So I'm not taking anything away from Phil in any way whatsoever for him doing this. But it also feels a little tight because there were a lot of guys that missed games for this, and he could have just missed it. But I feel like he played the 30 seconds just to keep the streak going. So,
which he did.
There's no question he did. That's what happened. So it doesn't take anything away from him because I think it's pretty impressive. But I also, if he ends up with the streak of all time, that'll be an asterisk beside it from my side.
1,178 games. I don't know if this is updated or not.
It's crazy. It is crazy. And even if you end at that, and I would actually feel a little bit better about that.
Well, that's his total games played. It's at 900 and something now, right? His overall. How about the fact, just like Yandel, I'm knocking on wood for him, he didn't get COVID during this, or if he did, he didn't have to miss.
We could discuss about the inside of the nose, outside of the nose. What were we swabbing, and how are they swabbing that?
Yeah, and he's still got a little time left. I mean,
Phil Kessel's a good pickup for somebody. Not the Bruins, please. Not the Bruins.
No.
Not the Bruins. But if you need a little power play help, second power play help, third line scoring, you have 2 big, strong guys who are on the third line, but they need a little bit of love, bit of hockey love.
Yep.
Take Phil Kessel. I would. He's a legit player.
I mean, he has 34 points this year in 56 games.
Yeah.
He's 34 years old, and he's going to play a couple more years. It's because it's what he does. I mean, all you look
he doesn't do anything else.
Exactly. Nothing else. Starting in the 2010 season, all you'd see is 82 next to his name as far as games played. There's a 48-game season too with a lockout, but it's just amazing. It's remarkable. All right, but back to Jacob Chychrun. Yeah, I mean, and by the way, Chychrun's back to playing like he did last year. He struggles not the right word. I didn't think for a while earlier this year he was the same as he was last year when he really had a dynamite season. I mean, could I see him in a Bruins uniform? Yes. Do I think it's realistic? I don't. When it's all said and done, I don't see them trading him. I don't. I mean, it's going to take a major freaking deal to get that one done. So I would say it's a cold cup of coffee on that one. But as much as I wouldn't complain for him coming over, especially with a couple more years left at a 4.4 or whatever it is that he's making, I'd love it. But I just don't know. I don't really feel like I see it happening.
I'm crushing a cold brew in the morning, and that's the take on this one. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It doesn't feel like what it just doesn't feel like they're going to overpay for him. It just doesn't.
Yeah. And Jake DeBrusk in a first isn't going to get it. That's not going to get it when you're getting a D in his prime. He's almost 24. He's got a couple of more years under contract. I mean, that's worth a first and something on its own right there. All right, Jacob Middleton, kid from the San Jose Sharks. There's been talk, scuttlebutt the last 2 days. He's 26, good size, not afraid to fight at all, scrappy defenseman, technically third pair, but on this team, he'd be on a second pair probably, because I'm assuming Forbert would stay in as a third pair D, left side. I would say warm. I would say it's a nice cup of coffee. Could I see it happening? Sure. Is that could you do a DeBrusk for Middleton? I don't know why they would give up on San Jose where they're having to rebuild. I mean, oh my God, some of the big contracts that they have with Carlson and Burns and Logan Couture and isn't Middleton the kind of kid that you'd want to keep there for a couple of years as a role type player? Unless again, he just brings you, let's say, two assets that can really help add to the turnaround in San Jose. What do you think?
Yeah, that's where I go with, to your initial point, is all these great young defensemen or mid-20s defensemen that are just getting into their prime. Why are teams giving up on them? So there's a question why, and there's also the other side of it is how much are you going to give up for that? Right. That, what are you going to give up to get that? And it all hinges. So and also you give up Jake DeBrusk. Okay, who's going to play that first line right wing for you?
Right.
And what are you getting back for that? So I just don't see how the Bruins trade Jake DeBrusk for a defenseman straight up, or with draft picks, or throw in a first round or second round, whatever it is. Okay, now who's playing that first line right wing with Brad and Patrice? Because you can't mess up the rest of the lines. They're in a perfect sync.
Yeah, no, it's a valid call, a valid concern. It's not going to be easy to bring somebody in from the outside coming in and have them just play with Patrice and Brad. We've talked about that before. All right, Mark Giordano. I actually think that's my hottest cup of coffee.
I love that one more than the other ones.
Yeah, and it's
because he's going to come in, he's going to fit in. He knows Brad, he knows Patrice. Hockey Canada, they've been around each other, they know each other. Taylor Hall, he's an Ontario kid. He knows Taylor. He knows Nick Foligno. That is a hockey guy who will just seamlessly fit in, creates a little bit of offense. Not the hardest guy to play against, but also pretty hard to play against, if that makes sense for everybody. That works for me. And he's a UFA, he's an older guy. Bring him in and let's really go for a cup.
Yeah, I think that, to me, that seems like the most possible to happen. So I'll call it a hot brew. We'll give a hot cup of coffee with that one.
I'd rather get an old guy. With Vakanainen, Zaboral showing themselves the way they have. Charlie McAvoy continuing to grow. You have Forbert. You have Riley, you have Grizzlick, you have a Sean, you have all of these guys next year. Bring in an old guy who's a rental guy on the back end, like Giordano. I don't think you have to bring a guy in to build for the future on defense. I think you already have that a little bit.
Well, I just don't think they have enough.
Giordano can do that.
I like Giordano. I still don't like the physical aspect or element of the D over the course of a playoff run. I like Giordano coming in, though. With all that said, I mean, can you get him for a third round pick? Second round for sure. Probably, I
give
you
up
know,
a second round and a second for that.
okay.
I would.
So I'd
Right?
ask for a third first, meaning or offer that, and then if they no, I would go a second round pick. Fine. There's one
Because it's
left.
going to be like a 50th overall. Like it's late.
Okay. So I'm good. I'm with you. Then we keep playing GM here. Um, I'm not
Yep.
against trying to even get Middleton. I'm not.
Yep.
Now, can you do a DeBrusque for him thing? I don't know
How about
because again,
this? Let me
yeah,
pose a question to you. You
yeah,
have Connor Clifton, you have Matt Grzelcyk, you have Jack Ahcan, you have Euro Vakanainen, you have
yep,
Jacob Zaboral.
yep.
Can you move any of those guys, or can you move a couple of those guys to get somebody? Because those are all the same people.
Right.
If you really like from 30,000 feet, they're all kind of the same people.
Repetitive asset. They are.
Yep.
They're similar in style. No question. Can you move? Would one team really want to take two of them together? I don't think so. I think you'd have to move them in separate deals, which you could.
Yep.
Does a team want a guy like a Grzelcyk who is more proven in the NHL than any other? Would they want a guy like Riley who's under contract for 2 more years? Or would they want to say, wait a second, we saw how good Zaboral was and Vakanainen was, but now you've got injury history to deal with there. And so does that minimize their return value? All valid questions to ask. But yeah, I think you do add one of those said players into the mix in a trade. No question. And I think you have to understand, and there's no question that Senyshyn, Studnika's name probably, would be involved there too. I don't think, and there's been articles and others, shows talked about this. I don't think Fabian Lysell is going to be up for auction. I don't. And I don't think Mason Lohrei will be either. But and I don't know if they should, given that he's a 6'5" or 6'6" defenseman, very fleet-footed, playing real well for a vet or a rookie, I mean, in the Big Ten with Ohio State. Not sure if you want to give up on that unless you're getting something that has term. That's it. The Anaheim Ducks they lost again on Thursday night. They're going to have a lot of players. I'm a big fan of Nick Delorier. I would be. I would be. I mean, he's going to attract a ton of attention out there for a big, strong guy, a ferocious man that can play the game decently. He can score some goals for you. But if I'm giving up getting for him, I don't think it can be a rental. I want to keep him I want to sign him like a couple of years like Matt Martin did with the New York Islanders and get a fourth line that is, really hard to play against. So I'd look for that. But, Ricard Raquel, do you pay a lot to get him, Razor, as your right winger with Bergeron and Marchand? But now you're talking bigger deals. Now you're talking a lot.
Well, you got to get rid of DeBrusque. That's got to be DeBrusque and a second round pick for Raquel and DeBrusque signing an extension, whatever that is. That's the only way that gets done.
All right. Well, all right. So we did a little.
It's going to be fun.
It should be. Although I'm hearing. Listen, I was just the NHL
nothing.
Network.
There's
talking
nothing.
to people. Nothing going on right now.
Nothing.
Really quiet right now. I don't know if it's a good or bad sign. All right. Anything else from this Blackhawk Bruins game you want to touch on before we wrap up? It's time to go and shut things down.
I mean, it's time to go, but no Mark Fleury. That kind of stunk.
I was hoping for the Flower to play as well. Yeah. I was.
But hopefully, I mean, he's going to play again. Hopefully, he'll be back again. But
hopefully Tuesday, right? I mean, when the Bruins play now, that's not in person, but for us. But they play back in Chicago. So maybe he'll play there. All right, Bruins win 4-3. Late goal, about 18 seconds left by David Pastrnak wins it for the Bruins. The Bruins' next game is Saturday against the Arizona Coyotes at TD Garden. Pregame on NESN starts at 6 o'clock. And then Razor and I will be back with you next week. And we're going to take Saturday off. And then I think we're back with you after Tuesday's game, in fact, against the Chicago Blackhawks. Everybody have a wonderful couple of days. Go out, make yourself a Fazenda coffee, and really go enjoy it.